Welcome to Win Souls TV. This is your host, Jeff Thomas, but y'all already knew that. Now, I will go ahead and just jump into the topic of today's video, and today's video is practicing. It's called practice. Practice, practice, practice. And what do I mean by that? If you're having trouble hearing the Lord's voice, or what you think you're having trouble with, but in reality, majority of the time, we've just become so accustomed to ignoring Him and putting it off as our own thoughts. And so I had that issue, right? Practicing hearing His voice, practicing your spiritual gifts, whether that is a gift of healing, whatever, right? For me, what I used to do is just go to Walmart. I made a video on this in the past. The first time that it happened, the Lord was actually told me to go to Walmart, and then after that, I didn't know that I had a gift of word of knowledge. I didn't know that I had a gift of word of knowledge, but what I would do was I would go there and I would ask the Lord to give me a word for somebody, or tell me something about that person, and then I would practice hearing His voice in terms of, I would ask Him, and then I would just go up to that person and then I would ask them, hey, like, is this true about you or whatever? Because I remember a long time ago, I was in a restaurant. This was 2018. I was in a restaurant and there was a waiter there, and before, when we sat down, I just looked at her, and immediately he told me that she has 3 kids. All of them are boys, and she was concerned about one of them. Well, come to find out, one of them had passed away, and she was holding that against herself, almost as if she wasn't allowing herself to move forward in life because she felt guilty about not grieving anymore about it. And the Lord was using me to let her know that it's okay to move on, because the longer you stay there, it's almost an open door for Satan to use the situation. So you can practice those specific gifts. Practice hearing His voice by going to Walmart or Target or wherever a high frequency of people, are. You know what I mean? And what I would do, I wouldn't do this every single time. I would practice it in the gym. Sometimes I would practice it at Walmart. I would practice it at certain places where I knew a lot of people were, and after a while, I learned what was my voice, what was His voice, and sometimes what was Satan's voice. And when I learned that, you become really keen to when He's telling you to do something, or when He's telling you to jump, or when He's telling you to take a step in a certain direction. And so with that, when you practice your gifts, you practice hearing Him, you practice doing those specific things. When it comes time to, actually use them outside of practice, it's second nature, because you put so much time in. And you have to remember the parable of the talents, right? There were talents that were given to specific people in the Bible, right? And one of them squandered, one of them invested his talents and then literally got more talents. There was an individual that didn't do anything with his talents, and guess what? When the overseer came back and he saw that the guy with a lot of talents had invested them and made more talents, and then the one that had done nothing with his talent, I think he buried it, but he had done nothing with his talent. It had gotten taken away and given to somebody who was already using the other ones. You see what I'm saying? And I think it's the same way with our gifts. It's almost just kind of like, we sitting with this gold mine. We're sitting with this spiritual gift that the Lord has given us. And when we have those gifts, it's just kind of like they just sit there and they're not even being used. And they're just being wasted by an individual that does not want to use them. You see what I'm saying? Or too afraid of what people will think if they're out in public and they're actually doing the work of the Lord. So don't be afraid of going out there and practicing, that you just have to get over the fact that people will be watching you and people will have an opinion about you, even the people that don't even know you. But here's the thing. Us as Christians, we're supposed to be peculiar people in the first place. I'm not saying, go start doing weird stuff. But what I'm saying is we're peculiar. Why? Because we follow a God that is not stagnant, that is not dead, and that is not, some little statue wherever. We follow a God that's living and that is active. And so we need to be about the Father's business. You see what I'm saying? And it's one thing to just read the word, but another thing to take the step. And I think that the church is so dead that we literally don't want to take that step. It's one thing to go to church and be spirit filled, but we have to actually release that. We have to release that upon the world and usher his kingdom into the world. That's the point of being spirit filled, not to keep it to yourself, but to release it to everyone around, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of gifts, but he's called us to those things. You see what I'm saying? So it would be beneficial for us to practice and to gain the understanding of, okay, this is the Lord's voice. He's telling me to do this. He told me about this person. Okay, that was my voice. I need to understand that a little bit better. I'm gonna keep practicing until I have it down precisely, perfect every single time. And then when that happens, you'll understand him wherever you're going. You'll be walking down the street talking to him. You know what I'm saying? And okay, buddy, that's enough. You'll be in the bed and he'll be talking to you. Ask him to tell you a story before you go to bed, and whatever it is, he speaks to us in a lot of different ways. And so you need to understand that sometimes he'll send you pictures, sometimes he'll literally just talk to you in a spiritual voice, not an audible voice. Sometimes you may actually hear an audible voice. And it may be in the form of a voice of someone that you actually recognize, like your grandmother or your mother or something like that. He can speak to you in many different ways, and for me personally, it's always been in the form of like thought impressions. I may be thinking about, I don't know, dogs or puppies or something, and then out of nowhere, he'll tell me, hey, you need to go to Walmart, or you need to go read this book, or da 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 da. And there was one time recently, matter of fact, just last week, I've been really reading a lot on spiritual warfare because the Lord is preparing me for some things in the future, and I have healing books in there, and then I have spiritual warfare books in there, and I was going to read all of the spiritual warfare books, study those, get a better understanding while also reading the Bible. But I had picked up this one book, and immediately when I picked up this book, chills ran through my whole body, and it was like this fire. It's kind of like a little bit of an electricity feeling throughout my entire body. And I was like, okay, he must want me to read this next. So stuff, he can talk to you in many different ways. So, just be willing, and be willing to take the step when he does tell you to move, and don't push it off and think that it's just your voice, especially after the fact that you've been practicing. Okay. Trust me, when the Lord tells you to do something, there's always a benefit, whether that's yours or somebody else that he wants to benefit through you. So always just jump and leap when he's telling you to do something, because you're the one that's going to be missing out if you don't. You guys be blessed. Have a good one.